Hi, this is Colin Thompson for Storyline Tips and Tricks. Today I'm sharing with you a couple of ways that Articulate Storyline 360's variable system can be utilized to perform different types of calculations using only a handful of triggers. This is a method that I have used to build two interesting user interactions that I will share with you now. First, let's look at this tool which is built for a retail store. This tool allows the store's merchants to rate and calculate the relative value of different products. It allows the product to be rated from 1 to 4 across 4 different categories, seen here in the columns, and provides a final tally of the score, seen here. Various pop-ups are revealed at the bottom of the calculator under certain conditions to serve as reminders to the user about policies based on the given scores. So how does this all work? The first important concept at play here is the feature that Storyline keeps somewhat hidden: button sets. Normally, there would be nothing stopping the user from selecting all 4 buttons in this column simultaneously. However, with a button set, you can assign all 4 of these buttons to a single set, which will allow only one button in the set to be selected at a time. This avoids having to set a bunch of triggers to change the state of buttons manually. To assign a button to a specific set, right-click the button to open the context menu and hover over Button Set. This shows you a list of existing sets and allows you to create a new one. You will notice that buttons in the first column are in set 1, the second column is set 2, and so forth. There's another feature we're using here that you may not know about, and that's the variable text display, which shows our score total. Here, we have the name of the variable tracking our score surrounded by percent signs and a normal text box. The text is so big because that is the size we want the 1 or 2 characters of the score to display in. Storyline will automatically change this text to reflect whatever value our total score variable holds at this time. When using this feature, make sure that there is no space in between the percent signs and your variable text, and make sure that the variable text is written exactly as it is in your variable list. Finally, let's talk about the trigger that makes this function as a calculator. We want the user to be able to freely tally up a score in any order and go back and change scores if they like. Tracking the addition and subtraction of the total score under these conditions might sound tough, but there's an easy workaround. Every time the user clicks a button, we recalculate the score from scratch. Here's how. When the user clicks a button, we set the total score to the value of that button, wiping out any previous score. Then, we add the value of the other 3 columns. This is what the trigger looks like. When this brand variable changes, we set the total score to that value first. Then, add the variables from the other 3 columns to our new number, resulting in the total of all 4 columns. The order here is key. The total score must be changed first, or else the math won't work out right. So from here, we just need to repeat this trigger for the other 3 columns. When the fashion score changes, we set the total score to that number, then add the value of the other 3 columns. We do the same thing for the other 2 columns. This method can be used in a variety of ways. Let's look at one more example. This project was built to demonstrate how a manual DSLR camera's light meter works. At the top is a representation of the light meter you would see in the viewfinder of your camera, which indicates whether you have set the proper exposure. Below, we have 3 independent sliders that represent camera settings which affect exposure: the aperture, shutter speed, and ISO sensitivity. This tool demonstrates how the combination of these 3 settings interact to alter a light meter's reading. You can see the indicator on the meter shifting as I change these settings. So how does it work? Beneath the surface is the same type of tally system that we used in the last example. When one slider changes, the total value is reset to the value of the single slider, and then the other sliders are added to the total. In this case, instead of a numerical reflection of the value, we use a 4th slider that is not user-operated. Instead, that slider's indicator is repositioned depending on the total value of the user-controlled sliders. When all the sliders are set to one extreme or another, an indicator turns on showing the meter's value is off scale in that direction, just like a real light meter would. Behind the scenes, though, that score is still being tracked, so it knows when to start moving the indicator again. Can you imagine a way that these methods might work in your own projects? There are a lot of opportunities to use dynamic variable text, button sets, and this calculator tally system once you understand how they work. I hope this inspires you to give it a try.